All right.
We can also see your meeting reminder up.
Oh, that's weird. Thanks. Thanks, Laurel. All right. So welcome to the coordinator meeting for the Master Gardener Program, August 2023. We have a lot to cover today, and I want to hopefully have time at the end for questions. So I'm going to jump right in. So we have announcements, and then we're really going to focus on DEI and the civil rights compliance. So some of these announcements that I have, asking you to save the date. We've been asking you to do that, but we have 20 RSVPs to the in-person meeting next month. I'm thrilled about that at the Tacoma Marriott, and we have a good agenda for that time frame. We will be having lunch out, and so I need you to be aware of that, so you wear shoes that you can walk in. It should be close. We're not walking far, but we're going to find a restaurant that's nearby and hopefully enjoy a lunch together before we return back to the Marriott and finish our meeting. We're doing it that way because the conference venue requires that we use the food that they provide, and it's too expensive. So we're going to go find some fun restaurant in Tacoma somewhere, and I'm excited about that. I lived in Tacoma for a while my husband was in law school there, and it's changed a lot, and there's a lot of fun restaurants now. And then annual awards. So couple things. So the annual service and lifetime awards, I'm still working with the awards committee to know whether or not those are going to be available for distribution at the conference. I don't have a good answer for that right now. I've asked a couple times, and I don't know where that sits. And then the Extension Master Gardener of the Year, the Ed Lacrosse, and the Media Awards. I want to thank everybody for submitting nominations into the committee for those. We had a record number of nominees in every category, and it was a difficult selection process, but the committee was able to make a determination and will recognize volunteers at the conference. We also started something new this year. Linda, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I have a lifetime service award that I submitted, but she's not going to be able to be there. So is there?
Yeah, I mean, if we have them available, we'll get them to you as the program coordinator. So there are awards that get distributed, and the county coordinators usually, we don't recognize them at the conference.
Oh, okay.
Thanks. Yes. Okay. So and right now, the way I've got my screens, you guys, it's hard for me to see your hands up. So if you just need to speak up so I don't miss you, or somebody else chime in and say, hey, so-and-so has their hand up. Okay. So then new for this year, we're trying to recognize volunteers from around the state at the state conference. And a few months ago, maybe 2 or 3 now, I can't remember exactly when, I asked each of you to put names in 3 different spreadsheets on Teams so that we could recognize volunteers from your respective counties. Debbie Bembo, would you mind grabbing those links and putting them in the chat as I go through these posters?
Sure.
Thanks. Okay, so one of the ways we wanted to recognize volunteers at the conference was to have this poster. You're seeing it in front of you. It'll be 24 by 36. And these are volunteers who have received local awards in your respective counties. Or if you don't do awards, we've encouraged you to select up to 2 volunteers from your county that you would like to have recognized at the conference on a static poster. You know, so that's what this poster is going to look like. You can see that some counties have done this and some have not. Debbie is creating these posters, and we want to have them done ASAP. So if you have not had opportunity to put names in these in these spreadsheets, please go in and do that. Debbie, what's the deadline? We got to put a deadline on this, Debbie.
Yeah, we haven't set a deadline. Thank you for catching the misspelling. Yeah.
These are draft posters.
Yeah, definitely draft. Let's see. I would say if I could have them no later than the 11th,
Okay,
that gives me time to finish the posters and to have them printed,
okay.
which it takes a week and a half to get them back. So anyway, I'm putting the link for OneDrive in here.
Okay. And then because it's the 50th anniversary, we want to recognize long-standing volunteers. So there's criteria at the top of the poster. It's also in the spreadsheet. Again, you can see counties. Some counties have done this and some have not. Please go into the spreadsheet and enter the volunteers who have been serving and or who are still serving and meet the criteria listed at the top of the poster.
Jennifer, we ran into a situation where we don't have volunteers that fit that criteria. Can we just recognize our longest serving volunteers?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
And then at our regional events, we provide the 4 regional events that we had for the 50th anniversary. We offered opportunity for the counties who participated in those events to recognize, you know, specific volunteers. And so some counties did that, some did not. But so we'll have a poster for that. So if you recognize a volunteer at a regional event and have not had the opportunity to include them in the spreadsheet, please do so by September 11th.
Jennifer, there were a couple of comments. Erica was not seeing Clark County in the longest serving volunteer poster.
Okay.
And some of the information in there didn't fall within the criteria that's at the top. And
Okay.
that's why I didn't put it in. So maybe we just need to put another category, another criteria up there, the longest serving in each county.
Well, Debbie, let's talk about it tomorrow during our regularly scheduled meeting, and we will communicate out.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And I got the message about Dave Thomas. He's in Island County.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, Linda, we'll get those links out too. I don't know why it's making you log in as Deborah. It shouldn't do that. So we'll get the links out too.
Okay, it's in Teams in OneDrive under awards and recognition.
All right, so let's go ahead and move forward. So we have time to talk about these 2 policies that we're updating and just really putting pen to paper so that we're all following the same process. So I think most of you know, but WSU Extension underwent a civil rights compliance review in 2018, and there were a number of findings that WSU Extension is working to address. Our next review is in 2024. A major finding was our consistency or inconsistency around collecting and reporting race, ethnicity, and gender data from our employees, volunteers, and participants. And so we all obviously need stronger guidance and policy, including procedure on collecting and reporting REG data. So the information I'm going to share today really focuses on collecting REG data from our current returning volunteers and from new volunteers. We do have some time set aside next month in our in-person meeting to discuss how to report the data and then collecting REG data from our clientele. We've been having diversity, equity, and inclusion and civil rights conversations for a number of months, knowing that we needed to implement new policy and procedures around these. None of us particularly enjoy or even relish the idea of a new policy, particularly implementing it in your counties and when it has the potential to be controversial. So please know that we did our best to make this policy easy to understand and the process as easy to follow as possible with the least amount of disruption to your typical work process. However, there will be change. Change takes time and effort. So I'm here to support you through this, and so is Kenitra Keeney. She's on again today, I think. Kenitra, are you here? I think I saw you come in.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Thanks. Yeah.
I'm here.
Thanks,
I'm here
Kenitra.
to support.
Appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
So as I was talking to a coordinator yesterday about this change and how we're going to implement it, they said it was kind of made me smile. It's like making a grilled cheese sandwich. You know, the instructions to make the sandwich might seem long and time consuming, but once you know how to do it, it's actually pretty quick and easy. So we're hoping that this new process, that are the processes that are connected to these policies, will turn out over time to be quick and easy. So in order to confidentially collect REG data from volunteers, we need to update the annual application, reapplication processes. So we're going to talk about that first, and then we'll talk about the REG collection, and I'll share some talking points at the end with a sample communication that was developed to help you communicate this change to volunteers. So we all know that certification in our program does not automatically carry forward from year to year. Volunteers must submit an application to the program each year to declare their intent to continue participation in some way. That part will not change. WSU Extension Master Gardener Program is a paraprofessional organization of trained volunteers who deliver science-based education. To ensure the continued competency of all volunteers that serve, WSU requires volunteers to complete specific requirements for each year's certification. None of this is new. We all know this. The annual certification process reminds volunteers of the requirements to retain their certification, seeks their continued commitment to uphold the WSU Extension Master Gardener Program's vision, mission, and values, and their agreement to abide by the code of conduct. It is important for consistency, equity, and access, and for the confidential collection of the race, ethnicity, and gender information, that all volunteers follow the same process for recertification each year. So herein lies the change. So starting now for the 2023, moving into the 2024 year, program coordinators and volunteers alike will use Give Pulse surveys to implement the certification process. I didn't hear too many groans. Are you all on silent? So we will use Give Pulse surveys to implement this recertification process. Only volunteers who have submitted the application and who have met the certification requirements or request emeritus status will be granted certification or emeritus status for the following year. So as each of you thinks about how you want to incorporate this into your annual process, please remember volunteers should be logging hours on a monthly basis into GivePulse. They must have a background check completed every 3 years and must agree to adhere to the code of conduct and commit to upholding our program's mission and values. When we get into the emeritus status piece of it, it's complicated because of how this status has been granted in the past, and it is something that we will work on in the coming months. So let's look at the updated process. We know we're going to use GivePulse. It's important that all volunteers across the state have the same understanding of what is required to maintain certification and what is required to retain certification, including the steps for recertification application. Each county should begin the reapplication process not later than October of each year. The reapplication survey should open not later than November 1st and should close not later than November 30th. And each new roster of Extension Master Gardener volunteers should be published not later than January 31st of each year. So beginning in October, and we're going to have more training around this. Right now, I'm just talking to you about what the change is. So beginning in October of each year, program coordinators will grab the GivePulse survey tool, copy the survey, and make any necessary changes for your county. Then you'll invite volunteers to complete the survey by the deadline. During the open period, it's encouraged that you send weekly reminders to volunteers so that they know what is expected. And then you'll review the submissions, the survey responses for eligibility to confirm the status that they're requesting, that they've met the minimum requirements for that status. And then you'll communicate with the volunteer about that status request and complete the administrative tasks associated. So once you review the survey responses and the requested status against eligibility requirements, if the volunteer has earned the requested status, congratulate them. Send them a communication, a message that congratulates them and thanks them for their service and confirm their status for the following year. Then enter their background check completion date in GivePulse. Enter their Extension Master Gardener status in GivePulse. And report their race, ethnicity, and gender data into the Contacts by County and Tribal Location at the program level. And that's training that you still need. But that's an administrative task listed on the process. If the volunteer does not meet the eligibility requirements for the status they are requesting, inform the volunteer of their ineligibility and explain why. Give them an opportunity to become eligible by a certain date prior to the published close of survey date. If the volunteer remains ineligible, send written communication thanking them for their service to the WSU Extension Master Gardener Program, and remind them of the following: that they should refrain from referring to themselves as a Master Gardener, ask them to return their Master Gardener items to the program office, and let them know that they will be removed from Master Gardener volunteer rosters and communications. In GivePulse, you can add a quick note to the user in the Manage User screen, stating this certification ineligibility or resigned date. Change the volunteer status to inactive. Place an archive tag on the user in GivePulse and archive the user in GivePulse. Jana, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, and I apologize. I have to admit, I wasn't listening totally to you. So you may have said something about this. But if their ineligibility comes about because of their background check, I will be the one that sends the letter to them that explains that they've had a negative response, and I will work with them for final determination as to whether they will be eligible or not.
Great, thanks for that clarification, Jana. I'll add that into the policy. Sarah, you have your hand up.
Yes, Jana started a conversation I was going to wait on, but I kind of want to ask now. Does that mean that we should do the background checks before people certify? Or I was having a kind of a chicken and egg thing where I wasn't sure, should we wait until they've demonstrated that they want to certify and then have them do a background check? Or do we have them do a background check, assuming that they wouldn't do it if they didn't want to certify?
Oh,
Jennifer, what do you think on that?
interesting.
But one thing we have to do is we can't run the background check until we have decided that we will accept them as a volunteer.
Right.
If we run the background check prior to that, that's considering erecting a barrier to participation. So we want to make sure that they've completed everything else that they need to complete for certification before and new applicants, we want to make sure that we've decided we want them to be a part of our organization before we run that criminal background check. Because what we don't want to have happen is that background check come back with something questionable and we automatically eliminate them without judging, I hate to use the word judging, without determining if they meet all the other criteria for the program. So if you get an applicant that applies and you look at their application and you say, no, I don't think we're going to accept them based upon A, B, or C, there's no need to run their background check because you've already determined you're not going to accept them into your program. We only run the background check after we have done what we need to do, reviewed their application, interviewed them, chosen them, whatever steps you take in your county, chosen them to be a master gardener, then we run the background check.
But that sounds like after they've recertified.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah,
with that.
they will make their intention known that they want to recertify. And as long as they've met all the criteria you have for recertifying, so like they've done their hours, everything else,
Right.
then you send them the link that says you must complete your background check prior to recertifying.
Okay, I'm going to add that into the process. Thank you for clarifying that. That was a good clarification. Hari?
Hi, so my question is, which I don't know if it's just me, but my volunteers have been traditionally allowed to get all of their hours in until the end of the year. So if we are having their deadline by November 30th and they don't have their hours in, and this is, something that's brand new for them, is there any kind of leeway that we can work with?
I would, yes, Hari. And I still think it's acceptable to allow hours through the end of the year. I mean, you as the program coordinator, I used to do this in Chelan Douglas, right? I knew the volunteers who, they had something going on in the year and so they were not able to get all of their hours in prior to sort of the close of the gardening season. And so we would help them get hours by doing different things. And oftentimes that, went past the deadline. But I would walk them through the process to become, recertify, knowing that they were going to complete those hours.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Jana, your hand's up again.
Yeah, so what you can do, I mean, you can let them go till the end of the year for their hours. And even if you've already approved their certification, if they don't complete those hours, you can go back and revoke that.
Yeah.
Based upon that criteria. So
Right.
You're not going to be in any violation of any way we do things if you do that, because you're kind of entering into a contract with them that, yes, you'll approve, but they complete their hours. And if they don't, you can fix it later.
And I would encourage you in that situation to add a quick note to their user profile, so the sort of the contract that you've entered into.
Okay. Thank you.
Inside of GivePulse, you mean?
Yes.
Jennifer.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Jennifer, could you go back one slide just for a second? I missed seeing the slide. I heard you, but I missed seeing it.
And I'll send these out,
Okay.
and it'll be this is all being recorded. All right. So also included with the policy and procedure are required forms and available resources. So when you get the policy and procedure, you'll see those there. It's the pest management recommendation agreement. And then the foundation membership, if that's not processed through the foundation, it's important that we don't just automatically opt volunteers into foundation membership. It's actually against state law to do that. So there has to be an opt-in option for volunteers to be a member of the foundation. And then available resources for you. There are a video training on using surveys for certification applications in GivePulse. The video that's linked right now is last year's video. Daryl Schlesser from King County is working on getting that updated so that the new survey includes the race, ethnicity, and gender data questions and the communication associated with those questions. And then there's also definitions in the survey, and it links you back to the REG data collection policy. These will live on Teams until we get them, we're sort of in the plan, do, check, act formation of these policies and procedures right now. So once we get them solidified, we can add them into our policies and procedures on our website. Patty, will those applications be fillable online? What applications? So there's two different ones. So the certification application that you're looking at here on your screen, that's the GivePulse survey for reapplication. So that is definitely available online. And then the Master Gardener application for new volunteers, that's also fillable and online. Okay, so we did a few questions on the reapplication process. I want to jump to the REG data collection, reporting, policy, and process, and then we can have, a good conversation around both and how they fit together. So last month, Kenitra, I can't believe that was like a month ago already when Kenitra was on our call. So Kenitra is the one helping WSU Extension do better in our obligations to the Civil Rights Act and to our WSU anti-discrimination values. So since that call, I've been working with a small group, including a coordinator and volunteer, to develop a policy that works for our program. and the differences in how we operate in each county, and makes us compliant with this Civil Rights Act. So the policy purpose is stated here. With full implementation of this policy will help us understand who the audiences are that we are not serving, and will help us adopt strategies for inviting those audiences to participate. Defined, the policy really just cuts to the chase, right? It speaks, really defines that this is about civil rights and anti-discrimination requirements. When the policy itself defines that all volunteers, including applicants to the program, will be provided with the same confidential opportunity to define their own race, ethnicity, and gender information. It also states that we will report the information only in aggregate and not in connection with the volunteer's name or other personally identifying information. So now we need to talk about the process, because this is where the steps for you in the local counties are extremely important. And they're important to ensure the confidentiality of the applicant, and to ensure that we do not intentionally or unintentionally discriminate against an applicant. So for new volunteers, the most current application to become a WSU Extension Master Gardener contains a separate page that requests race, ethnicity, and gender data. Once the application is received in the office, either via hard copy or electronically, staff will process the application according to the following steps. First off, it's incredibly important that we limit the number of staff in the office who actually have access to the applications when they come in. For example, maybe it's the office manager and the program coordinator. Or maybe it's only the office manager. You can determine who that is in your office. The race, ethnicity, and gender page of the application must be immediately removed from the applicant's submission. If the application is received in hard copy, all you need to do is take that REG page and store it according to your office's civil rights plan for aggregation into the contacts by county and tribal location spreadsheet at the WSU Extension Master Gardener program level. If you receive it via electronic PDF copy, you'll need to take the following steps. And it's kind of a two-step process. So first, you'll save the REG page only the REG page, using a unique file name that does not include any personally identifiable information. So for example, and we want to keep track of the year that the application was received. So you can just call it something like REG 2024.1 for the first application that was received. REG 2024.2. You know, something like that. Come up with a formula in your county that you want to use that tracks the year that the application was received, but also, you know, is a unique file name that does not include any personally identifiable information. And then save the application pages without the REG page, using a file name that does include the personally identifiable information. For example, Butch T. Cougar 2024. And then you will report all REG data for all applicants into the contacts by county tribal location spreadsheet at the WSU Extension Master Gardener program level. The emails that you receive from applicants should be moved into a folder that is specifically for Extension Master Gardener applications. This folder is temporary storage for the full application, including the REG page. It will act as a backup for you. If you lose an application after it's been received, you can go back to that email folder and pull it down, and then walk through the same process again to remove the REG sheet. Once the applicants have been selected into the program and they're in training, all emails in that folder must be deleted. We don't want to keep anything on file, either hard copy or electronic, that connects the REG information to a volunteer. For returning volunteers, kind of walk through that process, but volunteer certification applications will be completed on GivePulse, effective moving into the 2024 year. The application survey, including the REG questions, will be distributed to volunteers not later than November 1st and will close no later than November 30th of each year. REG data is confidential. Administrator access to GivePulse should be limited to program staff and authorized designees to control access to personally identifiable information. So you build the application survey from the provided template, including the REG data questions. Set the deadline for completion for no later than the end of November. Invite volunteers to complete the survey. And then after the deadline, export the REG data and report it in aggregate to the contacts by county tribal location at the WSU Extension Master Gardener program level. This policy and process includes some required resources, required knowledge and links to that knowledge, and some helpful resources. So last month, Kenitra Keeney was on and she talked about the importance of this work, why we need to do it. And then there's some on our extension website, there are some under helpful resources, the civil rights compliance tools. Chat. Yeah, where, when, and how do we access the contacts by county tribal location spreadsheet? So that information is still coming. You all do have access to it. You were invited to a Teams, or I don't know if you were invited. Actually, Kenitra added you all to your folder on Teams. But I don't know if you've been invited yet. So that's something that I'm still working through. We're doing one step at a time. There's a lot coming, and I just wanted to make sure we were thinking through each step carefully and individually. So then with this same group, we worked on some communication support for you. So we have some talking points, sample communication that you can use, and then some definitions. So, and I leverage the who, what, when, where, why, and all that. So who are we talking about here? We're talking about the WSU Extension Master Gardener program and all of the volunteers who serve. What? WSU Extension Master Gardener program will request that all volunteers voluntarily and confidentially report their race, ethnicity, and gender information during the annual certification process. When? During the annual certification application process, which takes place October to November of each year. Where? It will be on GivePulse using the survey tool. At the program coordinator's discretion, volunteers who do not use GivePulse because of computer literacy or computer access challenges can use alternate means to complete the certification application process. However, the data must be uploaded into GivePulse. And why? The Master Gardener program is part of the land-grant university system. The land-grant university system was built on the principle that all people should have access to education. And our program wants to ensure that we uphold this principle in our work. Additionally, Washington State University and its programs are federally funded and as such are required by the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to report demographic information for employees, volunteers, and community persons who seek our services. Our goal for collecting RAG information is to see how well we uphold the land-grant principle of access to education. We summarize the race, ethnicity, and gender of all volunteers and of the people we serve to determine how closely WSU Master Gardener programs are serving all audiences in each county. So historically, we have not been consistent in our responsibility to collect race, ethnicity, and gender data. Some counties have been practicing this collection from volunteers for many years, and others have not. The variation across the state leaves the program wondering what the current diversity of our program volunteer base is. And a piece of the talking point I think that's important is making assumptions about someone's race, ethnicity, and gender is similar to judging a book by its cover. Everyone has a right to describe who they are. The WSU Extension Master Gardener program wants to give all volunteers an avenue to practice that right. It is required, but perhaps even more important, that we give everyone an opportunity to define their own individual identity. If we do this, when we look to the future, the program has a goal to be more inclusive and diverse. Our current volunteers want to invite people who have not typically been a part of our program to join the current ranks, to participate, and to feel welcomed and valued. We need to understand how our current volunteer base identifies to develop strategies that will support increasing the inclusiveness and diversity of our volunteers. The communication includes quite a bit more, but I'm not going to go through that with you. You'll be able to see that when I send out when I send it out for you. Let's look at. Okay, so the question was, can you define application and survey again? Yeah, we have, how about I will, but let's get through this and then I'll pull up the definitions because I've got some definitions I can share. Yes, Harmony, you'll be able to save single pages of the PDF if you don't have access to the WSU Adobe Suite, and we have instructions for how to do that within the policy itself. It's very quick. Can we talk about required to voluntarily? Yeah, Mary, let's talk about that, but I want to understand the context. So, but I'm almost through here. I want to get done through these. So, and then we can talk about how, when communicating with volunteers, consider asking them for their help and explain why what is needed and why we're asking them. So during, some of the language that's in the talking points for you, during this year's application process for attaining or renewing certification, we will ask for voluntary and confidential reporting of your individual race, ethnicity, and gender information. The information provided will not impact your certification or emeritus status request in any way. It will help us better understand who we are serving and who we are not serving in the Extension Master Gardener program. Please respond to this survey in a timely manner. Embody the vision, mission, and values by having discussions with fellow volunteers about the importance of responding to the survey. And if you are willing, please encourage your colleagues to respond as well. And if you make sure that volunteers know that each race, ethnicity, and gender category has an option for prefer not to respond. Even them marking prefer not to respond is a valuable response for us moving forward. We've crafted also a piece, communication piece for you to let volunteers know of this change and to ask for their cooperation. And the piece I've highlighted here in the bullet points, you know, it links to WSU's beliefs and values. It links to the Civil Rights Act. It links to the Extension Master Gardener Program values and goals, to compliance requirements, to the Give Pulse for reapplication and RAG data collection. It clearly states that reporting the information is voluntary and will not impact our eligibility. It clearly states that the data is confidential and in accordance with WSU's confidentiality policies. It says the responses will help ensure our programs are equitable, accessible, and diverse, and thanks the volunteer for their service. So, you know, a lot has changed in the last 50 years. And as I've been working through these two policies and the accompanying talking points, I always hear the voice of Jim Kropf in the back of my head and others saying, WSU sure makes it hard to volunteer. And, you know, that's true. There's a lot to it, you know, but I think that's okay. We are a paraprofessional organization. You know, we rely on volunteers to teach and extend knowledge on important topics to build healthy communities and a healthy planet. I think it's a privilege to be a WSU Extension Master Gardener volunteer. And I think we need to be proud of that fact and proud of that privilege. Earning and maintaining a certification takes time and effort. Master Gardeners fulfill an important role in the land grant system, a system that was built on the principle that everyone, regardless of their ability to pay or regardless of their ability to speak multiple languages, it used to be to go to college, you had to speak Latin. So that's no longer a requirement because of land grant principles. Everybody has an opportunity and deserves a right to learn, to improve their lives and the lives of those who come after them. So when the land grant university system started back in 1890, it was really about ensuring everyone, you know, that had a right, including the rural folks, had a right to educational access. And now it's about much more than that. And the Master Gardener volunteers serve in that role. Just like 4-H does and other volunteer organizations. And I'm going to share a bias here, but I think Master Gardeners are probably the most important part of extending that knowledge to the communities in the land grant system. So while I know that incorporating these two processes into your county practices won't be easy and most likely seems like a horrible drag, I trust that you understand the importance of this and will do what you can to support the work that we are both required to do, but also value the importance of doing. So let's talk about some of those questions that you have. So Kenitra, yeah. Kenitra is responding to Mary.
Do you want me to elaborate, or is that pretty straightforward?
Well, Mary, did your question get answered, Mary?
Yes, Antra's response did answer that. So wait, let me read that again. Writing their paper. Okay, so providing the opportunity so there's three things here in my mind. Providing the opportunity, the master gardener or volunteer actually filling out the form. And then the third one is whether or not they provide REG data versus saying, I prefer not to respond. So I totally understand that we're required to provide the opportunity, but in the language earlier in this presentation, it said they are required to voluntarily fill out the form. So does that mean that the first two of those three items are required, where Wazoo is required to provide the form, provide the opportunity. 2, the volunteer is required to fill out the form. But 3, they're not required to provide the data. They can say, prefer not to respond. As opposed, so I'm trying to understand, are they required to fill out the form, or they're just not required to reveal their reg data? Does that make sense?
So the way I would look at that, and I don't mean to jump in, Jennifer, is
Oh,
you're
please
going
do,
to have
'cause
some
I'm
people.
just trying to follow and I'm not doing a good job of it. So thank you.
No, so the way that I'm looking at it is, one, we're saying the same thing, but we're saying different things. Somebody who doesn't want to fill out the form is not going to fill out the form, and right then and there it's unidentified. You don't want to lose that data point, though. So if you say, we're required to give you the opportunity to self-identify, if that person's like, well, I don't want to, then okay, unidentified, but at least you have that data point. And if that person wants to fill out the form voluntarily, then they can put unidentified. It's just so that you don't lose that data point, but it's always voluntary. You just don't want to lose the data point. Does that make sense?
So they're not required to fill out the form.
They don't have to. I'm not talking about the application. I'm talking about the REG survey. As far as the REG survey goes, they don't have to. You have to give them the opportunity, but you still will need to figure out how to collect unidentified. So if they don't fill out that form, you'll have to figure out a way to say, okay, well, they didn't fill out the form. That means they want to be unidentified. And so that still needs to be associated in your REG data.
Okay, thank you. That helps. So not filling out the form does not disqualify them from recertifying. It just is then an extra step that we have to manually enter that data, whereas the form would automatically enter it. Anyway, that's a question, but
yeah, the REG data should never be associated with the other process. Those two are very separate things. You just want to know who's applying and who's not applying, who we're serving, who we're not serving.
Okay, thank you.
Linda, your hand was up. Is it still up? It is.
Yeah, it is. So I created my first Qualtrics survey using the template that Kenitra sent me. And my plan is, because we're doing our fair booth and setting that up tonight, I was going to have like a poster and point people to it saying, use this QR code to complete a survey for us. And on that survey, I'm asking them also, what programming would you like to see from the Master Gardeners? And but it also has the demographics. Does anybody else do something like that? And if so, do you have a poster that you have worded already?
So Linda, that's a good question, and I want to get at the answer to it, but that's separate from this conversation. This conversation is focused on collecting REG data from volunteers. And I want to make sure that we have time to get those questions worked through before we go to that. Is that okay, Linda? Okay, thank you. Sarah, you have a question? Is that related?
Yeah, it's related. I put something in the chat as well. I think that from the questions Mary had, makes me think volunteers are going, if we have a program coordinator asking those, we're going to have volunteers asking the same questions and having the same issues of clarity on that. And I'm worried when we ask people to talk to each other about it, that we need to make sure we give the volunteers enough information that if they're talking it up to each other, that they don't either hit a point where suddenly they've run out of information and they start making things up, or where they start talking and then realize they're not as invested as they thought, and it becomes not a supportive conversation. So I think if we're asking people to engage in this conversation, that we need to really answer the questions that we're asking in a way that makes sense to volunteers.
Absolutely. And I think as program coordinators, I think you are the ones who know the volunteers in your counties and the ones who are vested in this and are the ones who could talk about it, right? I'm not encouraging you to send out a blanket statement asking volunteers to chat about this among themselves. And I guess I needed to be clear about that. I'm asking you to, help expand your influence, my influence, Kenitra's influence around race, ethnicity, and gender data collection with those people who are already on board and understand and can communicate about it.
Thank you. That makes much more sense.
Okay. So what you will see from me then in the e-news, and then we'll get these things posted too, are the 2 updated policies and procedures. And I am continuing to work on the survey, the reapplication survey in GivePulse. If you know how to do it and want to go grab it, it is there for you. You can pull it down and start making changes for your specific needs. What I will say is the section on race, ethnicity, and gender must not be altered. That language has been approved and vetted. So Erica is asking for the language suitable for sharing with Master Gardeners. Yes, that is everything I said today is in the documentation that I will send to you.
I will get a copy of the Qualtrics out to Patty. Apologize, my Qualtrics is not working right now. As soon as I can get it working, I will have that on its way.
Okay, so let's go ahead and kick back for those people who want to stay on, and we can talk about Linda's question. And that is around collecting REG data from our clientele using Qualtrics and whether or not it's acceptable to have other survey type questions in that bucket. Is that correct, Linda? Was that the question? So I'm going to turn that to Kenitra. So Kenitra, if they're at the fair or at a, well, this is a specific question. She's at the fair with volunteers and they're chatting with clients and they, the volunteer says, hey, would you mind completing this survey for us? We're trying to learn about what other opportunities or what other educational outreach you would like us to provide. And at the same time, we're trying to make sure that we serve all audiences. So there's some questions in there about who you are. Would you mind filling it out? Is that acceptable?
It's acceptable. What I would do is I would look at the county by contacts page. The way that it's designed to follow that Qualtrics. So when you export into a CSV or an Excel spreadsheet, all you have to do is cut and paste and throw it right in the county by contacts. So if you're going to add extra questions, I would add them at the end so that you don't have the REG data mixed in with the other data, because then you'll have to go in and separate it out. But it's perfectly acceptable to ask additional questions. You can collect more data. It's just how you report the data. So the collection, if you want to do the gender orientation, or if you wanted to do some of those other things, income, you can do that. But when we report it, we're reporting REG and we're reporting it very specifically. Did that answer the question? Or did I lose the person who asked the question? Did I answer the question?
So I think you answered it. I'm going to just pop into here real quick. So this is the all extension teams page, and this is the additional training that's going to be coming to you. So this is the all extension MS Teams page, and you'll see a Master Gardener Civil Rights REG data channel. And then in the files, every county has their own folder, and in that folder, let's see, Linda, where Stevens, in that folder is your contacts by county. Everyone is the same, but this is what it looks like. So when you start asking those extra questions, you want to make sure that you're not messing with the order of the questions asked, so that when you export that data from Qualtrics, it's a simple cut and paste into here. Does that make sense?
So what we need to do is go look at our dashboard from the survey, and and that'll tell us how many males, how many females.
The survey, the Qualtrics survey is in the same order of the spreadsheet that I just showed you. So as
Okay.
long as you don't mess with the order of those questions, you're good.
So in other words, we could add questions at the beginning, or we could add questions at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of what I did.
Perfect.
As long as those questions aren't what's your name?
Right. Yeah.
Good call, Harmony. Yeah, they could.
Or email address, no email address.
No personally identifiable information.
Mhm.
Kenitra's smiling.
So I'm looking at my dashboard, and it's only giving me a certain number of columns. So how do I see the further columns? I'm only seeing the one for gender. I
So
don't know. I'm-
did you export the data? Do you want to work together? We can work together after this if you've got some time.
Well, this is just test data for me running through the thing myself. So I guess I just need to, and I am signed up to take the trainings so that I can learn more about Qualtrics, because I haven't used it.
Great. Okay.
So I have a question,
Go ahead, Mark.
comment, maybe, I don't know. But I hear people talking about using the QR code. Is it okay if that, I don't know what I'm asking. I thought that we needed to have like a paper form as well, so that we're not excluding anyone who doesn't have like a digital way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
good practice, Hari. Yes. It is
Okay.
good practice to have both.
Okay, thank you.
So it's in the all extension team. So I think, I don't know, Kenitra, you said you gave access to the coordinators. Oh, did we lose Kenitra?
Can I
she is.
share my
Okay.
screen real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get organized a little bit. I apologize. I'm doing too much. I'm doing the most right now. I apologize. Give me a second.
Well, we're happy that you're here. Thank you so much.
Let's see. We're gonna go to. Give me just a second. Bear with me. Okay, we're getting closer. Okay. Are you seeing Master Gardener CREG data?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna go to Master Gardener, data, then I'm gonna look at the managed channel. Okay, so I know this is gonna be a little challenging, but these are all the people that should have access. Do you want me to read the names, or can you read the names, or can somebody help me decide who's not here or who needs help? I'm adding to it, but we've got Bridget, Carrie, Marco, Rachel, Carlton, Andrew, Linda, Gary Robert, we've got of course Jennifer, we've got Mark Heisterman, Brenda, Tessa, Laurel Ann, Patricia, Amy, Beth, Jayla, Angelin,
Yep,
Harry.
Angelin.
How do I pronounce that?
Angelin.
Angelin,
Mhm.
Harry, Alex, Lauren, Jason, and that's all I have really
Sarah,
on
I
here.
don't
If
see you on there. How did we miss getting Sarah's name? Oh, there she is. I see her. Never mind, she's
Sarah
there.
Moore, Aaron, Erica, Tim, and Caitlin. So if there's someone else that needs to be added, Jennifer, do you want to send that to me, or do you want me to just go via FAR, have them go via FAR direct with me and I just add them?
Yeah, so Harmony's requesting access. Laurel, is Harmony gonna be the one putting all this stuff in? Is Laurel still on?
What's Harmony's last name?
Rutter. Rutter.
So is she in all extension? She's not added to all extension.
Not, she must not be.
Okay, so that will have to be something that that Robin can do, and I'll send her Harmony. Spell the last name again for me, please.
Rutter. Rutter.
Okay, I'll have Robin put her in tomorrow, and then we'll get her access.
And then Beverly is asking if she's in. Beverly Sarles from Ponderay.
That name, yes.
Right there, yeah. So then,
Is there anyone else?
so that means each of you should be able to go into the All Extension team, into the CR channel for Master Gardener.
Yeah, so should be able to click on all extension and click right there, and
Yeah,
that'll take you
then
to.
find your folder. So it looks like a couple more people. So Jackie Sykes from Spokane County, let's get her added, please. She may not be in the All Extension team yet, so we'll see.
So is that SAKE?
SYKES.
Gotcha. Forgive my atrocious spelling. SYKES. Okay. So I'll need to get her added to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyone else?
So Diane Escura is asking to be added, but Diane, you don't have WSU credentials, so that's an issue in Grant Adams. It's a issue that needs to be handled, and I need to figure that out.
So I'll look on my end too. So it's the idea there isn't a WSU account, it would be a county account.
Well, Diane Escura and Mark Amara are volunteers in that county who lead the program, and they do not have a public affiliate status, which would give them the WSU email address. And so the county director there needs to sign off on that. So we need to work through that process, or at least try again.
Okay.
We've tried a few times and to no avail, so we can keep trying. We'll try again, Diane.
Okay. The survey it's on my Qualtrics right now. My Qualtrics is not working. As soon as I get that, I will get the survey out to you as well, Amy.
Okay.
So Hari asked a question, and this kind of came up. I can stop sharing, I think. Hari asked a question. This has come up a number of times on where does the county tribal director stop and where does this new process begin? Jennifer, I'm gonna let you take, I have what I want to say, but you are running this show, so you can answer it and I will support your answer.
Well, I don't know that I have a good answer, Kenitra, because I don't know where you're at with the counties across the state, right? And so I don't want to
Sure.
be contradictory to that. So what's,
I could jump in. So, so part of my thought was, not really understanding all of the different beautiful things that Extension does, knowing that your process isn't really going to start until November. I am going to work with the county tribal directors to collect data up until this process begins in November. And then that way, by the time we hit January, you'll be fully into the system. And then we'll let the county tribal directors not have to worry about collecting that data anymore. Does that sound okay to you?
I like the sound of that as a clean break, Kenitra.
Okay.
So we will put all the volunteer REG data that we collect through this year's application process into the county context by tribal, the context by county tribal location at the WSU Master Gardener program level in December. So all of that will get put in December. And then we will start fresh January 1, putting all of our clientele information into at the program, WSU Extension Master Gardener program level.
Perfect.
Okay.
Kenitra, do these all get bunched together for each county or for our state, or or do they separate by who we are versus who we're serving?
I think what you asked was, where does this data go and what are we going to do with it? Is that what you're asking?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, that's a good question too. I was just kind of asking how you're grouping it in order to evaluate it. Or how will it be grouped? Are the people that the master gardeners serve, will the master gardeners themselves, their demographic information be grouped together with the people that they serve?
Shouldn't be. Volunteer data would be the way I look at it is volunteer data is more of the power dynamic, who's making the decision, who's deciding the resources, whereas the actual person that the volunteer is engaging with on that basis, that's your REG data. And that's going to be who's actually showing. So we're looking at census data of who's available. Then we're going to look at the advisory boards, volunteers, who's making decisions and how resources being spent. And then we're going to look at REG and who's actually showing up. And those are going to be collected differently. Then we're going to put that in one big Excel spreadsheet. It is going to be a monster Excel spreadsheet. It's not only going to be Master Gardener, 4-H, SNAP, FNF. It's going to be county tribal locations. And when we're going to be able to segregate that data by state, by program, by location, and all of that is going to talk to a dashboard that will be in Tableau. So you will be able to kind of see through a parity analysis that the data tool will do for you where your programs and your volunteers and advisory boards are reaching parity and when they're not.
So it will compare that once she gets all the data into the big spreadsheet and puts it into Tableau, it will compare Master Gardener. We can dig down, drill down into Master Gardener programming in Yakima County and compare it to the audience, the people who live in Yakima County, and the demographic data of those people. And we'll be able to see whether or not we are serving all of the people in Yakima County with the Master Gardener program, or whether we are not serving them.
Because it seems like it's kind of twofold with our group.
Yeah.
Right? Because we have to make the program available to become a volunteer to all people.
Yep.
Plus, then once those volunteers are certified and serving the community, they need to make the information and what they're doing and the services they're providing available to everybody.
Yeah. It's a lot, which is why I really had to, working with Sarah and Daryl and the others that helped me put this together, really, cut it into bits and pieces, because it got big. It got kind of unwieldy pretty quick.
Yeah.
And we're only trying to do Master Gardener and think about what Kenitra's doing.
Start doing it though, and we start seeing the numbers, and we can say, here's our baseline and here's here's who we're pulling in to join the program now, and we can see if there's a difference. We're going to be glad we did this.
Yes. Thank you, Sarah. I agree completely.
Well, I'd like to thank you in advance for the work that you're going to be doing. I mean, this is, like I said, I have colleagues across the nation, and this has been one of the bigger challenges. So we would be in the forefront of this. It would make us a leader, not just for Master Gardeners to be a leader, but WSU to be a leader in doing a data collection and doing parity analysis in a way that is meaningful and provides services that adapt to the demographic. So it's going to be amazing, but it's going to be a lot.
Well, thank you, everybody, and be on the lookout for the policies, procedures from me and the talking points. And we're here to help you, Kenitra and I. So please reach out. Have a good rest of your afternoon. We'll see you in September in person.